I'm not trying to offend any of my former coworkers or anything like that, but I'd like to talk about how the warehouse where I had been working for the last 25 years has just gone out of business. But I guess it's no big whoop for me personally, relatively speaking, because I should have left there many years ago due to my bad health. Everything in the building was shipped out to a much larger warehouse the company owns about 1,000 miles away due to corporate downsizing, as so commonly happens today. At first, I was in shock about what happened, but I know that it's probably for the best for me as working in a warehouse, especially one where lots of heavy lifting was involved, like the one where I was at, would run a healthy person straight into the ground. So you can imagine what type of condition a person like me was in by being there. Now, I'm 50 years old, and I'm still getting asked to show my driver's license before buying alcohol. And since I look considerably younger than I am, if you knew nothing about me, you'd probably think that I must be in really good health. I mean, sadly, that's not the case at all. I've been dealing with a lifetime autoimmune disease that there's no cure for called lupus for the last 14 years, since 2010 when I was officially diagnosed. Lupus is a disease where the body attacks its own self as if the body can't distinguish between its own self and a virus it's trying to fight off, leading to widespread pain and inflammation throughout the body. If not treated, it can be fatal. It's not contagious in any way, shape, or form. The type of lupus I have, systemic lupus erythematosus, often abbreviated as SLE, is very similar to rheumatoid arthritis, so my joints get inflamed and painful from my neck all the way through my feet, and the pain on the right side of the body is as bad as the pain on the left side. Lupus affects everyone differently. Some people like myself experience anemia and extreme fatigue and have pain all through their joints, whereas others, in addition to the symptoms I just mentioned, also experience skin rashes and destruction of their internal organs, as lupus can destroy your brain, heart, central nervous system, kidneys, your eyes, you name it. It can also affect those that have it mentally, causing brain fog, depression, anxiety, and mood swings. Unfortunately for me, to make things worse, in early 2021, at the age of 46, I was diagnosed with macular degeneration in both eyes, and now I have to deal with the possibility of going legally blind years down the road. As of now, my vision is fine, and one of my doctors says that I have better than normal vision, but of course I'm concerned about what could happen years from now. I'm also dealing with osteoarthritis in my right knee, which has caused my knee to swell up like a cantaloupe quite a lot in the past. It was operated on when I was 27 back in 2001, but it's never been the same since, and I only have partial mobility in my right leg because of it. I haven't had two healthy legs since I was 25 years old. With the way I'm falling apart physically, it's like, oh yeah, go me. Hopefully, now that my job has gone out of business, before I totally run myself into the ground any further, maybe I'll be able to find a job that's less physically draining. There's a number of self-employment opportunities I'm going to look into, but I'll talk about that in another video, as I don't want to run this video too long. After 25 years of doing heavy physical labor in a warehouse, full-time with my health being what it is, I'm too broken down to do it any longer, sorry to say. I wouldn't be surprised if my eyes deteriorate at a slower rate if I'm able to avoid the type of work I used to do, since my body would be under less physical stress. And when you're dealing with the health conditions that I have, you're supposed to eliminate as many forms of stress in your life as possible to slow down your rate of deterioration, of course. I think I only got through it through the grace of God, because I've heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I would tend to believe it, knowing what I know about lupus, that only 30% of working age adults actually work full-time because they're in such bad shape. I never had the luxury of working part-time. I was barely getting by paycheck to paycheck working full-time. I live by myself, and I don't have anyone helping me out financially. And the first 12 years I worked there, we had tons of overtime. But after that, we had very little, if any. Once all the overtime got yanked away about a year after I got lupus, that's when things got really rough for me financially. Those 12 years of working overtime, I'm sure were a contributing factor to my getting the lupus, where my body just permanently broke down and was unable to recover. I mean, heaven knows I was no stranger to working 12-hour days. I don't know if the management team where I worked knew that I was dealing with lupus or not. I mean, if they did know, they never said anything to me about it, and I never said anything to them about it either, because I I didn't know how they would react. And I don't tell people about it in general unless they ask, because they heard through somebody else maybe that I had it, because I don't want people to see me as, less than, so to speak, or I don't want them to feel sorry for me. I also don't tell people that I have lupus because I wonder if they'll freak out and completely avoid me going forward, because they'll think that by being around me, they'll get lupus themselves, which is impossible. It doesn't work that way. I once had a contractor that often worked on my house for years when I first bought the place, 15 years ago, that I really liked dealing with, that did the work at an affordable rate. But once I told him that I was dealing with lupus, the guy never, ever worked on my house ever again, almost as if he was afraid that if he came over to my house, then he was going to get lupus as well. So yeah, I learned early on not to say anything about it unless I absolutely had to. Otherwise, people would kick me to the curb faster than you can say Thomas Jefferson. Another reason why I never said anything to my employer about having lupus is that I had heard about other people losing their jobs within a few months to a year of telling their supervisor that they had been diagnosed with it. I heard about cases where someone had worked at their job for years and everything was fine between them and the management, but once the worker let it slip that they were dealing with lupus, it was like everything changed. All of a sudden, it was like nothing that they did was ever good enough, and everything that they did was being scrutinized and second-guessed to try to find fault with it, and ultimately, the person was fired. I didn't want to take the chance of getting into a similar situation, so I just kept it to myself and did the best I could. Anyway, I wanted to start this new channel to discuss my frustrations and challenges with my situation and how I'm dealing with it. I wanted to set this up to show others that may be newly diagnosed with it, these conditions, that it's not necessarily the end of life as you know it. I've been dealing with it for the last 14 years, as I mentioned earlier, and I don't expect to pass away anytime soon. I'll probably have another 50 years of dealing with this. I mean, on a positive note, believe it or not, and this is very unusual for a person with lupus, with my rheumatologist's permission, I was actually very fortunate to be able to stop taking all of my prescription medications, and I'll be discussing how I was able to do that through taking certain vitamin supplements and eating a certain way on this channel. I haven't been taking any prescription medication in the last year and a half, and my rheumatologist and I really don't see any need for me to go back on them if things keep going as they are now. I had to take this major step as one of my eye doctors believes that some of the prescription medication I was taking may very well have been what caused the macular degeneration in my eyes, which is irreversible and can only get worse. If I would have continued to take the medication, my eyes would have deteriorated that much faster. I think a lot of people will be able to relate to this channel because, in all honesty, how many adults are really genuinely physically and mentally healthy and would get a glowing bill of health from their doctors? I can't think of any, sorry to say, no offense. However, I didn't want this channel to be just health related. I wanted to use this platform to discuss my frustrations with really anything at all. Any topic, could be fair game. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like, share it with others that you know, and consider subscribing to my channel. It's free, it won't cost you anything. Hit the notification bell to be the first to know when I've released new content. It'll encourage me to keep making this content and help me out with the YouTube algorithm so it'll get shown to more people, and maybe it'll help some people along the way. I'd certainly like the opportunity to be a health advocate for those in a similar situation to myself. You can follow along with me on my journey to see if I fall into financial despair and ruin and have a nervous breakdown, or if I somehow manage to get things straightened out. You'll be able to watch me make a fool of myself as I'm someone just starting out creating content on YouTube like this for the first time. Maybe I'll even be an inspiration to you to start your own YouTube or TikTok channel, as you'll see me on this and you'll be like, wow, if this guy can do it, then so can I. You may want to buckle your seatbelt, as it seems like it's always a lot of drama with me. Nothing ever goes as smoothly as I hope. Well, then again, as smoothly as anybody hopes for that matter. Well, that's all right. Maybe then makes me come across more like an actual human being that's relatable instead of coming across as somebody who's too smooth and polished. Well, talk to you again after a while.